Hey there, I'm David Bexte. This is the Counter Signal, and today we are going to be reviewing and live reacting to a speech you may have already seen before. I'd be surprised if you hadn't, because this speech has been one of the most viewed political moments in the country since the election. It might be the most viewed speech since the election, actually, aside from maybe King Charles's own speech that he delivered on behalf of Mark Carney in the Senate building just a week ago. This speech that I'm talking about is what was delivered by my father, David Bexte, in Parliament. He's right now, a rookie member of Parliament for the Conservative Party, and we'll go through the speech, which you may have seen already. I want to live react to it. I grew up in the region that he is talking about in this speech, so I understand a lot of about the people that he's speaking on behalf of. And why I think the speech that he gave resonated so much with Canadians. It was a shock to me to see, obviously, my dad, who I grew up with, delivering a speech in the House of Commons, for one. I mean, that's kind of weird for anyone. But to see it be him and this guy that I grew up with and look up to, see it be so well received by the country was, really humbling. It did show, just to pontificate a little bit, it did show that there was still a very clear divide in this country. The mainstream media wants Canadians to think that, Mark Carney's in now. This is a new era. This is a new government, and we've put the silly times of Justin Trudeau behind us. And now we have serious, good government. But in reality, the people that saw this speech and shared it to millions of people, they have a different idea of what's going on right now. They watched the election and they were disappointed by the results. And then they continued on with their lives, and things were still bad. They still are struggling to afford groceries. They're still frustrated by traffic. They're still frustrated by wait times in their hospitals, seeing the fentanyl crisis explode. They're frustrated seeing this country be re-illustrated by the Liberal government, who, as we reported recently, has not put the brakes on immigration whatsoever. And when they see what David was talking about in this speech, it resonated with them. And, it resonated with me a lot too. So I want to go through it. I want to share some of the comments first, because you've probably seen the speech. So me showing it to you again isn't going to be hugely interesting, probably, unless I'm like cutting through it and sort of sharing my thoughts on it. But I want to share with you some of the thoughts that I'm seeing on Twitter. Here's one. David Bexte's speech struck a chord with me. His story echoed everything I said about the Canadian dream. When his dad came here, he didn't ask for a handout. He came with pride, purpose, and a work ethic that built this country. That's what Canada was. That's what it should be. That's something that it's not right now. People come here with the expectation of handouts. They come here expecting a hotel room, expecting 3 square meals a day provided by the Liberal government. They have no plans on getting a serious job. I mean, maybe they would if they could just, they would if they could. But the problem is there are no jobs for them. There's only a certain amount of Uber Eats drivers that we can have in this country. There's only a certain amount of Subways. There's only a certain amount of Tim Hortons. The problem is that the Liberal government's immigration regime wasn't bringing in the best and the brightest from around the world. They were bringing in new voters. That was the goal. And now Canadians are rightfully frustrated because Canadians, David's father, who he talked about here, having fled communism, he had to work in the sugar beet fields for, I think, 3 years to pay off his passage across the Atlantic. That doesn't happen anymore. It doesn't happen at all. And people see the difference between out of control immigration and pioneers that came to this country to build something. Lily in the Valley says, a little glimpse of light in the dark clouds Canada is in at the moment. David H. says, this was a great speech, but like you said, the MSM will never air this. They only air the garbage that comes out of the mouths of Liberals. JD says, it's enough to make you weep for the country we've lost, the country that no longer exists for our youth and future generations. I love Alberta and don't want to see it go. On the other hand, in my head, I had to cheer them on because they hold the power to crumble this corrupt federation. Very true. This was a historic speech that was delivered, and I want to get to it. I'll start playing it so that you can listen to it with me. This particular one that we're going to watch was an edit that I saw on Instagram from an Instagram account called Beautiful Canada. They added some music to it and some B-roll. It's pretty nice. Let's give it a watch. Let's hit play and see what all the fuss is about.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in this House today with humility and purpose. I stand here with a promise, one that shaped my family across generations. A promise that if you work hard, raise your family, and love your country, you'll be free to live in dignity and peace. I'm the great-grandson of a pioneer who broke the untamed fields of what would become Alberta before there was power and pavement. I'm also the son of a farmer who survived communism with nothing but his hands, his family, and the hope that Alberta would be a place where his children could speak freely, live safely, and never bow to a state that hated them. Mr. Speaker, the riding that sent me here is called Bow River. It's not just a place, it's a people. It's a home, it's a promise. You see, much like the people who rely on it, the Bow doesn't ask Ottawa's permission to flow. It carves through rocks, it sustains life, it cuts a path forward whether anyone is in this chamber or not. The Bow runs past oil wells shut down by people who have never set foot on a rig. It flows past farms taxed by bureaucrats who couldn't grow a weed. It flows past churches left to burn. While politicians offered excuses instead of justice, it flows past the homes of veterans.
Pause it right there for a second. This was something that I was proud to see, and I think that this is one of the reasons why this speech blew up. It's because no politician in this country seems interested at all in bringing up the church burning crisis. If you look at southern Alberta, you can see the map that we put together at Juno of all of the churches that have been burned down as a result of Justin Trudeau and the lies that have come out in this country about the mass grave hoax. It is a deliberate attack on a specific religion in this country, one that if it was happening at this scale against synagogues or mosques, the United Nations would be sending battalions here. That's how bad it is. But because it's Christians, nobody wants to talk about it. And mentioning it here, I think, was important. Anyways, we'll keep going.
Seniors and families forgotten by the system, but not by me. The beautiful thing about the Bow is this. Even when the government grinds to a halt, it keeps flowing. When politicians hostile to Alberta try to strangle our economy, it keeps flowing. When bureaucrats and glass towers write the rules that cripple our farms, it keeps flowing. When unelected judges rewrite our rules and call it progress, it keeps flowing. When they shut down our churches, our rigs, and our rodeos, it keeps flowing. The Bow doesn't care about trendy acronyms or performative politics. It cares about feeding cattle, watering crops, and quenching the thirst of a working land. It fuels an ecosystem, an economy, and it helps feed the world. It doesn't wait for permission. It flows where it needs to flow. And if it wasn't clear, Mr. Speaker, I'm not just talking about the river, I'm talking about the people. Because just like the Bow, we move with purpose. And we're done with waiting for the rest of the country to catch up. We don't need a national strategy, we need Ottawa to get out of the way. Mr. Speaker, I ran to represent the people who built this country, and now watch it being dismantled by people who don't understand it. And worse, don't even like it. This week, the Prime Minister stood before this country and promised more of the same. A new housing bureaucracy. A new set of buzzwords instead of a budget.
Pause it for a second because I want to go back to something that he said there. Talking about this was a beautiful speech. I have to give it to him. And this was cut, a little bit was cut out, I think, by this Instagram cut of it. But at the beginning, he mentioned his time in 4-H Alberta, which is what gave him the speaking skills that he has. I was in 4-H as well, and that contributed to my ability to public speak as well. But this speech is obviously he's my dad, so I like him, right? But I would say this about anyone who delivered this speech or speech even close to this caliber, that the feelings and emotions that he brings up, talking about the Bow flowing. The Bow River is this major water artery that goes through southern Alberta that irrigates, provides water for the breadbasket of North America. The way that he talks about it continuing to flow even if everything in Parliament is on fire. Parliament could burn down today and the Bow River would continue to flow. And he goes on to say that it's not just the Bow that he's talking about. He's talking about the people of Alberta. And in my mind, I think about the people in the oil and gas industry who have been working for 10 years. The oil and gas industry crashed around 2013, and they've been trying to recover. And then they were hit by Justin Trudeau in 2015. And then they had 10 years of that. And now they have Mark Carney. And they're still continuing. They're keeping on. They're continuing to put pipe in the ground, drills in the ground, pull oil out, and try to ship it to markets around the world, despite every roadblock being put in front of them by Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney. And the message here, I think, David is an oil man himself. He was an executive with Schlumberger. Is Alberta? You cannot put a roadblock in front of Albertans. They will continue to do what they were meant to do, and that is innovate, build an economy, build communities and family, whether Ottawa wants them to or not. Whether they get in their way, they're going to continue doing the jobs that they need to do to put food on the tables of their families. I think that is another reason why this resonated so much with Albertans. And I shouldn't, just say Albertans. David's obviously an Albertan, but this resonated with people in Ontario, in Toronto, even in Quebec. People were sharing this and putting captions in it in French because I think every Canadian that has been here for a long time, that has a family, they have a very similar work ethic to Albertans. They want to build. They just don't have the oil in the ground, I suppose. They would love. A lot of people I see in the comments, they say, "Oh, I would move to Alberta in a heartbeat." They're restricted for one reason or another, but the spirit of Alberta that he's talking about here is shared by a lot of Canadians, and I think that message resonated with them a lot because of that. This message resonated a lot. Anyways, we'll keep going here. We have about 4 more minutes, I think.
And we're done with waiting for the rest of the country to catch up. We don't need a national strategy. We need Ottawa to get out of the way. Mr. Speaker, I ran to represent the people who built this country, and now watch it being dismantled by people who don't understand it. And worse, don't even like it. This week, the Prime Minister stood before this country and promised more of the same. A new housing bureaucracy, a new set of buzzwords instead of a budget, and more red tape instead of results. And not a word, not a single word about oil and gas pipelines or the workers who drive our economy. Let's be honest with Canadians. We don't need to renew the consensus on immigration, the one that's fueled the Liberal political ambition for a decade. We need to rebuild this country for Canadians. We don't need to gaslight working families into acceptance of out-of-control immigration while wages stagnate, house prices explode, and services collapse. We need to restore common sense and put Canadians first in their own country. We don't need more empty promises. We need paychecks you can raise a family on, homes you can actually afford, and streets you feel safe walking down. We need less gatekeeping, less government, and a whole lot more grit.
You can hear, I can hear her voice. I think that's Shannon Stubbs shouting in the background. Yeah! She's one of the other great Conservative MPs in Alberta, always fighting. Like, she's got grit. And one story about Shannon Stubbs, actually, it's kind of funny. Once I was covering a caucus meeting in Ottawa, one of the first caucus meetings after Pierre won the leadership, I think. And Shannon Stubbs was holding a press conference outside of that caucus meeting. And I had asked a question, I forget what it was. And I was about halfway through my question when a CBC reporter steps in front of me, pushes me out of the way, and starts talking over me. And just like intentionally, because he hates the independent media, everyone at the CBC does. And Shannon was like not having any of it, shut him down completely, and rejigged the entire press conference to say, no, we're going to take this question from this independent journalist because that's, not only fair, it's just a polite way to conduct a press conference. And she shut the entire thing down to take my question. I never thanked her for that, but that's something that shocked, I think, the mainstream media at that moment. and it was before Pierre really started. It was before the Pierre Apple moment, and a bunch of other things that have changed in this country since, where the Conservative Party, and I'm happy about this, generally speaking, that the Conservative Party is not completely focused on what the CBC thinks about them anymore. They much, maybe it wasn't reflected in the actual election, where they were, I think, missing the mark on going onto independent podcasts in Canada and abroad. But by and large, you have to give it to them that they were not driving the campaign based off of how what the CBC was saying on any given morning, what Rosemary Barton was barking at them. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate that about Shannon Stubbs. But anyways, I think that was her, long story short, shouting in the background, cheering him on. So let's keep going.
Mr. Speaker, I come from the part of Canada that feeds this country and fuels its economy. So you'll understand if I speak plainly. Because where I come from, words matter, but work and deeds matter more. I'm here to fight for the honest worker, the family farmer, the rig hand, the rancher, the welder, the widow, the health worshiper, and every kid who still believes this country can be worth something. I come to this House with one of the strongest mandates in the nation. And Mr. Speaker, you know how I earned it? I promised to rip this place down to the studs and start rebuilding a country we can recognize again. The Prime Minister this week showed he's here to do the opposite. Behind the pageantry and parades, he disrespected the Crown by using the King to deliver a tired and empty speech, meant to distract Canadians from a simple truth. He's still stumbling forward on the heels of Justin Trudeau's failed record. Mr. Speaker, I have deep respect for our institutions, but what Canadians needed this week wasn't ceremonial flourishes, they needed substance. Not sentiment, but solutions. Not more speeches from elites in suits, but action for people in coveralls. The farmers, the builders, the rig hands, the parents wondering how they'll afford groceries and heat at the same time. Canadians are tired of being lectured. They're tired of being told everything is fine when they can see with their eyes that it's not.
That's pause it there. That's another thing. People can see with their own eyes that things are not going well. They can see that grocery prices, despite inflation being under control, grocery prices are sky high, higher than they've ever been. They can see that the Prime Minister is lying to them constantly about the state of international trade negotiations. Things are getting more difficult for the average Canadian, not just since the Liberals took power in 2015, but since this election. Since Mark Carney took the reins, things have continued to degrade and diminish for the average Canadian. So when David goes out there and says the obvious, maybe it's not so obvious to these politicians, but as someone like him who just this weekend was on his farm, getting ready for a new season, it's obvious to him. To the people who live in Ottawa full time, who hardly step foot out of the Ottawa bubble or have been there for decades and decades and decades, stating the obvious is kind of difficult because the obvious is pretty foreign to you. I think about my friend who mentioned to me that he saw Jagmeet Singh shopping at Whole Foods in Ottawa frequently, like that. He shops at like the most expensive grocery store you could possibly find in Ottawa. He's not shopping at Walmart or even Save On Foods or wholesale, whatever, superstore. No, the price of groceries don't matter to people like that. To people like Mark Carney. Mark Carney, the one notorious for having said, or infamous for having said that he doesn't even shop for himself anymore. These people are completely out of touch. So it's refreshing. And again, I think the reason why this went viral is because David there was speaking the obvious, but it was stuff that the average politician was not obvious, I don't think, to the average politician exactly how bad the situation is in this country. Keep going.
This country has a proud and noble history. It was built by pioneers, sustained by families, and defended by those willing to risk everything for the promise of freedom and prosperity. But after a decade of mismanagement and division from the Liberal front bench, that promise is fading. Alberta separatism is no longer a fringe idea. I heard it at the doors more times than I can count. And I'll tell you plainly, Alberta staying in Confederation is not up to me, and it's not up to the Liberal government. It's up to the people of Alberta. And the Albertans know that they have options. If this House continues to insult, abuse, and neglect Alberta, if it refuses to treat our people and our industries with the respect that they've earned, then the future of this country is not guaranteed. This job here tomorrow. At any moment, this government could lose the confidence of the House. And when that moment comes, Canadians will remember who stayed with them and who stood in their way. Because when the system stalls, the Bow River keeps flowing. When this government offers platitudes instead of a plan, the Bow keeps flowing. When they forget who built this country, we remember and we keep moving. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the people of Bow River for one of the strongest mandates in this nation. To my family and my friends, my neighbors, thank you for trusting me with this duty. I won't let you down. I didn't come here to rub shoulders with royalty. I came here to fight for the families, farmers, and energy workers who build this country. And I'll keep fighting until the Liberal government gets the message. Because that promise still lives, and I intend to keep it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Really powerful stuff. And I'm excited to see what he continues to do. I'm going to do my best to be completely transparent with how I cover David as well. I think that's important to my viewers. I owe it to you, I think, to explain, my relationship with him and why, I said earlier, I would have covered this speech here today if it was delivered by anyone in that way. If Mark Carney himself gave a speech like that, I think I would have given him pretty high marks and I would have shared it with you. But as we go forward, this is obviously new territory for me, for my audience. He's my dad, but frankly, we disagree about a lot of stuff. We have my whole life. He'll be the first person to tell you that. Around the dinner table when I was younger, we got into plenty of disagreements. Now, obviously, we're in different roles. I'm in the media and he is in Ottawa doing his thing. And of course, I'm proud of him. But nobody, I guess I should say, has higher expectations of him than me. And if he was to, get abducted by the Ottawa bubble, I'd be the first to call him out. That Albertans deserve, whether it's him or anyone else, Albertans deserve strong representation that puts Albertans first, and make sure that when there are national negotiations about the future of this country, that the people who drive this country, who feed this country, who fuel this country are not forgotten. That is what I'm interested in, and I know that's what my audience cares about, whether they're in Alberta or not. They want to see a freer, more prosperous Canada. That's what I want to see. And I'm going to hold, whether it's David or any of my other friends in Parliament, I'm going to hold them to account. You have my word on that. That will never change. I'm excited to see what happens here. I'm excited to see more speeches like this from both David and others. You can see some maiden speeches from other folks, and many of them were really good. Andrew Lawton's speech, who my audience probably knows quite well, was fantastic. Aaron Gunn is coming up too. I don't know if he delivered his maiden speech yet or not, but we can expect some pretty good things from a opposition that is stronger than ever in terms of this Liberal regime. There's more people punching back now than there have been for a long time, and we got to remember that this Parliament, while it's not hanging by a thread, it is on the edge of a cliff. They do not have a majority. They have a minority plus Elizabeth May, and whether this government lasts 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or goes the full term, at least I have hope that with the NDP not having party status, with the Conservatives taking up more space on committees, this government hopefully will be slightly more to the right than what Justin Trudeau's government was, just because he was being dragged along by the hair by Jagmeet Singh. I expect good things from this opposition, and I hope that they have what it takes to put Mark Carney in his place and force his hand to deliver for Canadians. And the Countersignal and Juno News will be here the entire time, covering it, sharing with you through new formats like this and others exactly what's going on in this country, because we know that the mainstream media will not do it. Evidenced by the very fact, actually, I should note, that this speech has not been published by the mainstream media anywhere. You have to go to X, Instagram, Rebel News, Juno News, the Western Standard, these independent outlets to see this speech, the most powerful speech since King Charles's own. You wouldn't even know that it happened if you weren't subscribed to Juno News, which I encourage everyone to go do. If you haven't, tell your friends to go do it. You're going to get all kinds of insider information from shows like this, information that you're not going to find on the mainstream media. Rosemary Barton isn't going to share a speech like that with you because they know that they know exactly how damaging it is to their cause when there's strong conservative politicians speaking up and resonating with Canadians. They have an ideology, they have an agenda, and you are not part of that agenda. You are not part of their interests. Rosemary Barton has her own interests. So does David Cochrane and everyone in the parliamentary press gallery. They're there to protect their own jobs, their own egos, their own values, and they don't share them with you. We do here at the Countersignal and at Juno News. And if you go to junonews.com, you can get a subscription. You can tell your friends to get a subscription because we are quickly growing to become, if not yet already, I have to look at the numbers, one of, if not the largest independent news outlet in this country. We are here and we exist to replace the CBC. That is our goal. We're going to grow and continue to punch hard and punch up as long as it takes until Canada has a media, an independent media that they can respect and rely on. Anyways, that's it from me for today. Thanks for following along. As this develops and as more stuff like this comes out, we'll have plenty more to share with you. So follow along. Follow me on X at TheRealKian. Follow us on Juno at Juno News, junonews.com especially, and we'll have more coming soon. Thanks for following along.
You're watching Juno News, Canada's fastest growing independent news network. Our team works day and night to bring you nationwide coverage of the issues that matter. Honest reporting of the stories that put Canadians first. From far and wide, Juno is doing the work to turn the dial in the right direction, bringing you the news from the field and in the studio. Wherever it takes us, we get the job done. For you, for Canada. Subscribe today and help us replace the CBC. Go to junonews.com to join the fight.